welcome back, everybody, to this week's live episode of the DCL Duo podcast, brought to you by My Path Unwinding Travel and also our good friends over at DCL Magazine. If you have not headed over there and gotten your copy of the float test edition of WDW Magazine's All Disney Cruise Line edition, the DCL Magazine, head over there now, dcl-magazine.com. Sign up, get your edition of the DCL Magazine coming to mailboxes now today. We already have like 5 copies in our house, so if you're ever over, we'll be happy to give you one. But with that, let me bring in my lovely co-host Sam here. Fair warning. We are hoping that this does not end in disaster as last week's live stream did. We got it up and running. We did a test on Friday evening with our good friend CT from Tinfoil Mouse Ears. Things seem to be stable and working. My MacBook is over here rebuilding itself right now, so hopefully that will also become a home for this platform once that finishes up. But we're hoping that everything's going to work out tonight. We're going to have a fun show and a fun topic, and we will be back to our regular schedule. Please do bear with us as we work out some of the kinks on this new platform. Apologies actually to our show sponsor, Karen. I had the wrong intro reel loaded in, so we did not get your fabulous My Path Unwinding stuff in there. But we're going to be working on this, evolving it. I got to build templates for it because it's all custom. So I got to build a whole bunch of stuff over the next coming weeks. But anyway, we're excited for the show.
Yes, and assuming everything goes well tonight, we're actually going to have Gina come back since she was supposed to come on last Monday. We're going to try and have her on this Friday instead of on a Monday. Add in a live show this Friday at our same time, though, at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. And then, of course, we'll be back next Monday with our lovely guest, Tracy. As you all know her, she's one half of the DCL Duo Senior, and she'll be on for our regular live broadcast on Monday. So again, our normal time, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. So assuming this stream goes well, we will have lots of content coming to you in the coming week.
So far, so good.
Good.
So here we go. I get to use sound effects
we'll be
now?
talking about we'll be talking about Alaska with Gina. Hold on one second. We'll be talking about Alaska with Gina. We'll be talking about the treasure with Tracy, just to let folks know.
Yes. But now that I get to use sound effects, let us bring in our fabulous guests. Here we go. It is, I got to find the view. Hayley and Drew.
The sound effects are kind of awesome, you guys.
I'm gonna try and build some of the Disney horns into the soundboard here so that we can play those on occasion.
Good.
That'd be fun. So, yeah.
But it's okay. We don't have them today. There's no horns on ABD.
Yes.
That's right. There's no horns on ABD. I love that. Yeah. So today we're super excited to talk to Hayley and Drew. They are recently back from their Adventures by Disney adventure. That's what you call it. One of their trips, an adventure in Costa Rica. Now, Hayley and Drew have been on our show many times. We have mentioned we've sailed with them before in our cruise to Norway out of Southampton a couple of years ago. Hayley and Drew, why don't you guys remind folks of your cruising creds? This was your first Adventures by Disney adventure, but so let's focus on your Disney cruise creds, well, and other cruises as well, because you come on to talk about those as well.
Yeah, that's true. So we have been on 6 Disney cruises. We've been on each ship once, and we have not repeated an itinerary, and we've only repeated one departure port. We've been out of Port Canaveral 3 times, but also been out of San Juan and Dover and Barcelona. And then we've also been to Alaska on Holland America once, and I got to go on a celebrity cruise with some of my high school friends that I've also been on this podcast to discuss.
Yeah, and you guys did Alaska. You mentioned on Holland, not on Disney as well.
Yeah. There's an episode about that in the back catalog somewhere. If folks are interested, they can find it
somewhere. And I actually have on our Facebook group, or within our Facebook group, I actually have a list of all of our Alaska episodes. There's also a Facebook group that is focused on Alaska sailings that I don't run, but a friend of mine, Sean Connor, runs. And I posted a list of all of our Alaska episodes there too, covering both Disney and other cruise lines. So people who are really focused on Alaska or planning for Alaska, I've got a list of episodes specifically that you can look at for ideas on, port excursions and what Alaska's like, what to pack, that sort of thing. Well, but today we're going to talk about Adventures by Disney. Now, As I said, this is Hayley and Drew's first adventure, but uniquely enough, this is actually an adventure they didn't pay for, which is kind of amazing and awesome. Drew, why don't you tell us how this came to be?
Yeah, so sometime I guess last spring, I don't know if it was in Disney Files or on
It
the
was. I think it was
website.
one of the emails that you get.
Yeah,
So
one of the
we're
emails.
DVC members.
Yeah, and so we were just going through, and we got the email that they were having a competition that you could send photos in and potentially win an ABD. I think specifically to Costa Rica when it said. So we spent 30, 45 minutes, a long time picking the 3 pictures out that we wanted to submit. We picked one from our balcony on Copper Creek one day with a beautiful sunset. We had one from our Norway trip because we had the DVC lanyard on of Hayley in front of a waterfall. And what was the third one?
The third one was either a picture of us at Pompeii or a picture of. I think I was the only human in these photos for rules reasons because I was the one who entered, or one of me in Florence. But either way, it was like, what can we do to
DVC lanyard
help them market DVC to people? But I'm a nerd and I read the rules, and there's like a whole rubric for the scoring, and turns out that being a rules nerd pays off.
Yep.
So like wearing something that marked you as DVC, something to help promote you at promote DVC was part of the contest. Oh,
yeah, it was part of the rubric.
What I think 50% of your score was like relevance to DVC, and helping promote it. And there was part of your score was originality. So like if you submitted a photo of fireworks above Cinderella's castle, like congrats. So did 5,000 other people. So you were looking for things that were more unique. So yeah.
Yep. So we entered that last spring, and we were actually in Switzerland on a trip with Hayley's parents last summer when we're sitting there eating lunch or dinner, some meal, and we get this email, and it's like grand prize winner, and we're, of course, the first thing we think is, okay, this is a scam. This is some kind of spam email and things like that. But sure
you mean
enough,
a Nigerian prince wants to marry you?
Exactly. But we checked it out. The email checked out. Everything looked official.
And we remembered entering the contest.
And we did enter the contest. So you had to respond within
48 hours.
Yeah, 48 hours, or we didn't get it. And so,
see, I would miss the email. That would be me. I would just miss the email because I don't check my email enough.
Totally. Sam is one of those that has a little icon on the bottom of her screen that says 9,999 emails or whatever.
I am also that person, but I have my fake email that I use for all my e-commerce, and then I have my real email, and I use that for important things like entering to win a free ABD. And so anyway, we were able to fill out the DocuSign, and we got to choose the week that we went, and everything was included: flights, hotels, the whole experience.
That's amazing. Now, when you say you get to choose the week that you wanted to do, how many options were there? Because obviously they don't do the Costa Rica itinerary a million times during the year, but how many how many options were there?
We basically had almost a whole year in which we could choose to go. So any of those weeks, and we actually choose the week we chose was an adults only because we don't have any kids and it's just the two of us. So why not?
Yeah, we were we might as well enjoy being adults only and make friends with other adults. And so, and we went Memorial Day week too, which means one less day of PTO.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So some of us have unlimited and some of us don't.
Now, was it specifically any ABD, or was it Costa Rica that you?
It was specifically Costa Rica.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, because I remember you texting. I mean, this is a year ago now, but I remember you texting us when you I think you were still in Switzerland. You texted us that you had won, and we're like, yeah, and we're like, and you have to come on the show to talk about it. Obviously, so this is for those watching. This is this show is planned a year in advance. I mean, obviously not the specific date that they were going to come on the show, but it was planned. Obviously you have to come and talk to us about it. Okay, so let's start with itinerary, right? How many days was this? I know obviously you have to fly down to Costa Rica before, but how? And you said everything was included, but what was included specifically?
So yeah, we flew down on a Saturday and flew back the next Friday. So it was 6 nights.
And we could have done pre or post nights.
Yeah.
We did not because of our other travel plans for this year. We were
Mhm.
actually in Italy 3 weeks before this, which I sound like a terribly pretentious person saying that, but it just worked out that way.
Because this is what happened. We picked this free trip because we had to pick and plan everything, right after we won it. And
Right.
then last fall, her family comes to us and is like, oh, the whole family is going to Italy, but it's got to be this week because her younger brother is in physical therapy school. So he only had like a week and a half he was off. So,
So it was like, okay, I guess we're going to two different
different
3 weeks
vacations
apart.
in a month.
It's
Yeah.
fine. My job will be fine with this. No problem. It worked out. But you could have done pre or post nights, and some of the people in our group did do that. We just, like I said, chose not to because of our other travel plans.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these logistics. You have ABDs are typically around, I think, 40 people, if other outside of river cruises. Like river cruises are larger because it's how many people fit on the ship because they charter the whole ship. So that's usually like 150 people. I think for most land-based trips, it's usually about 40 people because that's how many can fit on like essentially a coach bus. And so that I think that
yeah.
so tell us like and usually two guides. Tell us like what were the, of course, as you mentioned, this was an adult only specific itinerary. To those watching, they do Costa Rica trips that are not adults only. They have both family versions and adult only versions. My guess is the itineraries are pretty similar, but there might be a
They're
couple of
almost
activities.
exactly the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So there may be a couple of activities that are, that they'll swap out. Something that might be more kid friendly, but in general, they're going to be really, really similar. So,
Yeah.
tell us how many people were on the trip, and then like what's sort of the age range we're looking at for these people.
There were only 22
Guests.
of guests on the trip, plus two guides. There was supposed to be 24, but they said somebody dropped out at the last minute. But it ranged. There were us. We're in our mid 30s. There was maybe one couple that was younger than us, but I would say
The Imagineers.
yes.
There were a couple who were Imagineers, but they didn't want to talk about it. So
Oh, what a bummer.
I got the vibe that they just, they're on vacation. So I get that. You don't want to spend your whole vacation talking about work. But yeah, so they seemed really nice. We did not get to know them especially well. But anyway.
It ranged from that, and there were up to people there with their like adult children.
Yeah, so the adult kids that people brought, it was like one family that had their two adult kids. One of the kids was 19 and the other was 23.
And the other one there was a father-daughter too.
Oh yeah, but Tessa is like 29 or something,
So.
and her dad is however old he is. So and then there were a couple of people that I would guess were probably late 60s, early 70s. If I had to guess, I didn't ask, but you definitely have a wide variety there. Our besties that we made on the trip were a couple in their 40s and another couple, I don't even know how old Peter, oh my gosh,
very
Stephen
young
Robin
if you're
are.
watching
Very
this
young
alone.
at heart and delightful company. But they were probably, I'm going to guess, at least in their 50s based on the age of their kids.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's always I feel like ABD is a good variety. I mean, like a lot of travel, right? It does tend to skew older generally not super young families, right? Because young families that have young kids, some of these things are harder to do, and obviously yours was an adult only itinerary, so you're not going to have families with young kids unless they could find a babysitter to watch their kids for an entire week. But yeah, it's going to be a nice variety of ages. I think Adventures by Disney really does attract a lot of multi-generational families as well. So
yeah, and I
let's
think the age range. Oh, sorry, I was just going to say. I think if you're bringing children on this, the minimum age that they recommend is 8.
Yeah,
but you can. They have done. I think maybe 6 or 7 year olds. I really would not go any younger than that, though.
Yeah, I think a lot of the trips are actually like a hard minimum of like 4 or 5, but they have a recommended minimum of like 8. And I would say I think that's right. I actually think, I think Nathan was. I think he was 9 when we took, or he had just turned 9 when we took him on his ABD, and he was, I think, on the younger end. I think he will enjoy our next ABD more than the first one, because he will be closer in age to the kids that will be on it. So yeah. Well, let's talk logistics. Where do you fly to? I know you guys are flying out from Charlotte or the Charlotte area, but where do you fly to? Where does this ABD start?
Yep, we flew into San Jose, and you fly out of Guanacaste. So you move across the country. Thankfully, like you said, we're in Charlotte, and we have direct flights to both of those. So it wasn't too bad. In fact, going down and coming back, we were on the flight with a couple of the older retiree people that were coming down to go on the trip, and we figured that out.
Yeah,
As
we all
there,
got in
so.
the same van to go to the hotel, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, where are you from? And they were like, oh, North and South Carolina. And we were like, oh, you must have been on our flight.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
shout out
and
to
we
them if they find us.
yeah, we had the same thing when we flew on our ABD. We had another couple, but we flew actually through Charlotte, funny enough,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh,
so
yeah. That's
yeah, we flew through Charlotte to Munich, and we had another couple that was on our ABD, and we got in a van with them. We baggage claim basically. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So when does it start then? You arrive in San Jose in the evening, daytime? Like, when do you all meet up?
You meet up for welcome dinner, so you can get
Okay.
there whenever, and I'm sure that your arrival will depend upon the flight times from your point of origination. But they don't have the first like scheduled group activity for us was at 6:30, and that was our welcome dinner on
Yeah.
that Saturday. We had like orientation when we arrived at the hotel with our 2 guides, but that was like a 10-15 minute kind of meet and greet, and then you were getting to go to your room and get settled, and if you wanted to go to the pool or something, you could.
Yeah, we probably got there
Nice.
about 2:30 or 3, so we had some time to walk
Yeah,
around
we
and
got
see
lunch
things.
because we were like, it's a weird, like it's a 4-hour flight, so for us, like we did not get served a meal on the plane
Mhm.
because we were in coach economy, whatever they're calling it these days. Disney did not, for some reason, want to pay for us to fly first class,
No.
and we did not want to pay to upgrade ourselves. So we were pretty hungry. We brought snacks on the flight, but we were like ready for something substantial by the time we got to the hotel. And it's the Costa Rica Marriott Hotel Hacienda Berlin. It's a long name. That hotel has like 3 different restaurants in it, which was pretty convenient. There were other places that you could walk to, but it's not like a super like nice walkable area. It's weird because you can like walk a block or two, and there's like a subway and like a little plaza with some other things like that. And there's also like a donkey and horse farm across the street. So we just were like, we're just gonna stay to the property. There's food here, and it seems like
Make
it'll
it
probably
easy.
be good, and we're just gonna keep it simple.
Yeah. Well, tell us, like, who were your guides? And then I want to ask about the planning process of choosing excursions and things like that.
Yeah.
So we had one local guide and one ABD guide. Our ABD guide was
Well, they're both ABD, but you mean American.
Yes, one American. Our American guide was Caitlin. She's from Nashville, and she was amazing. We met working at summer camp, if we've never said that before, and she comes from a summer camp background. She worked as a director at a few summer camps and things like that. So it was fun getting to connect with her over that.
Yep.
And then our in-country guide was Brian with a Y.
So wrong. So wrong.
Well, we were like, Brian, Costa Rican name, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
But he was like a wildlife specialist, specifically ornithology and birds. Like
Oh,
he
cool.
loved birds.
He knows every
Every
Costa Rican
bird.
bird.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So-
Which makes sense why you got some really great photos, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
oh.
let's dive into the planning, if there it was any pre-planning as far as excursions. So I'm calling them excursions, but like
Yeah.
people should know what I mean. Your activities, like your daily schedule. Were there choices? I mean, with a smaller group, I just don't know. Did they give you choices for your daily activities?
So not really, because like it's pretty much a set itinerary. So the default assumption is that you're going to do the itinerary as planned. If you don't want to whitewater raft or you don't want to zip line, they have alternative activities for both of those. So if you didn't want to whitewater raft, you could go to do a Heart of Palm farm tour kind of thing. We had one person do that, so she got a private tour with Brian. Caitlin came rafting with us. And then if you didn't zip line, you could go on like a nature walk. My philosophy on that is maybe like don't pick this ABD if you don't want to do these adventurous activities, because like that's part of what you're paying for. But your mileage may vary on that. But there's no real like planning to it. It's just when you show up in country, your guides are like, hey, if you don't want to do something, let us know and we'll let you know what your alternatives are. But like I said, the assumption is that you're going to do the activities as planned.
And I think because we won it, our planning process may have been a little different because, they were just like, hey, here's 3 flight options. Which one do you want to take or whatever? And, things like that. Whereas normally it may have been a little more challenging logistically.
Yeah. But I mean, there's no like, I think from what I've heard about y'all's episodes on the river cruises, it's like, do you want to do A or B in the morning? And do you want to do C or D in the afternoon? There's none of that. And the way that the Costa Rica ABD is set up, it's most of the time you've got an activity in the morning. And then if you have any free time, it'll be like in the afternoon after lunch. And part of that is because of the weather, especially we're like on the beginning of rainy season. And so especially during rainy season, you're going to have more likely to have rain in the afternoon. So if you do your activities in the morning, that's going to work out better.
That makes sense. Yeah. So let's talk about this amazing itinerary. What are you doing day one? Because we're not going to count. I mean, I know night one is the dinner, but let's move to the actual activity stuff. Let's talk day. Oh, there's your pin. Yeah. So every day, for those who don't know, every day when you're on an Adventures by Disney, there's a different themed pin. I don't know if they gave them for us. They sent to us ahead of time, so we didn't actually get them on our ABD. For you guys, did they send them to you ahead of time, or did they give them to you when you're?
We got them on. They said they just started doing that again.
Okay, yeah. So I think it was
that's
COVID.
How it was pre-COVID, and they just started doing that again.
It was pretty fun because they came out of a sloth backpack called Pearl. And so when you saw Pearl appear, you got excited because that meant that you were getting the pin of the day.
Love that. And I will note, Drew, for those who are not watching, Drew is wearing a lovely sloth shirt. And Hayley, you can't see her earrings, but she is wearing a sloth earrings as well. And she's wearing a Star Cruiser shirt for those who, for those who've been on the Star Cruiser or Halcyon Forever, of course. Okay, so day one, what are you guys up to on day one?
Day one was rafting. So we hit the ground running. Like we get there, we get up. We had to have our luggage outside by like 7 a.m. and we left by like 7:30 because it was like maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour drive to where we were rafting. And so we got to the bus. And it's wonderful because you put this little tag on your luggage and you just set it outside of your room and then it disappears and then it just reappears in your next room whenever you move hotels. It was great.
Yeah, they call it magical luggage service, and it is magical.
Amazing. That sounds
so. And we're normally carry-on only people because we don't like schlepping around a lot of luggage, but you had to bring a lot of varieties of shoes for all these activities. So we did end up checking a bag, like a medium-sized suitcase, and it was kind of like, well, why not? Because we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Once we get into ABD custody, we don't have to touch it again until it's time to go get out at the airport in Guanacaste. So why not?
Exactly. Tell me, actually, that's a great point though. What kind of shoes? What are the varieties of shoes that you needed to bring?
So go ahead. I was going to say, so for rafting, you need something with that you don't mind getting wet that has a back. Like flip-flops are not going to work for rafting. You could do like Chacos or Tevas or Keen water sandals, that kind of thing. We actually wore water shoes because we decided that, like, we've been rafting several times previously in our camp counselor lives, so we prefer to have our toes covered for rafting purposes. So we had like water shoes. I think we bought them at Blizzard Beach actually. So Crocs would work fine. They got to be in sport mode, but you can wear Crocs rafting. For zip lining, you need to have closed-toed shoes. That can just be tennis shoes. It can also be like a hiking boot or something like that. I think I wore my hiking boots, my low top hiking boots, because I was like, if it rains, then I don't want wet feet, and my boots are waterproof. And then you've got a catamaran adventure, so you can wear like your water sandals if you got those on the catamaran, or like you could do flip-flops. So I just wanted to have options. So I had tennis shoes, hiking boots, water shoes, and flip-flops, and my Chaco sandals. I lived in my Chacos most of the trip, actually.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the
I mean,
shoe rundown.
that's like 5 pairs of shoes just for you, Haley. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I can understand that's quite a
Drew
variety.
didn't
Okay, so
take quite as many, but you know.
yeah, a couple that hit multiple purposes. I can understand that. Well, let's when you're talking about whitewater rafting, are we talking about like super intense water? Like what are we talking about here?
No, they didn't get above a class 2.
I think it says class 3 on the website,
Yeah,
but
but the
yeah,
the route they take you down is very tame, and I think
for us.
yes, that's true. For us, there, everyone has their own experience with it and things like that. But like I said, back when, or like Haley said, we used to do it as camp counselors, and I used to guide rafts back then. So I've been down much heavier. We have the National Whitewater Center here in Charlotte, where they can go and adjust the rapids, because that's where like the whitewater kayakers and things that participate in the Olympics train. So we've
Oh, wow.
done like a much higher rated stuff. So it was pretty calm from our standards, but it was cool that as you were floating down the river, you saw a lot of wildlife. And so that
Yeah.
was a pretty unique experience.
Yeah,
So
I would say like it's like stretches of kind of just flat, like do 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 do. I mean, there's some ripple to it, and then you would get to like a couple of more intense rapid sections, but there's a lot of like chill sections. And so, like I said, to us it was like this is pretty placid, but there are some pictures of some of our friends where they are just like shrieking the entire time, every photo.
so
And we have about 200
So
photos.
we got one question here that I wanted to
Yeah.
ask. It was Ed's asking, did they give you a packing list?
They did. So it came in they send you an adventure handbook, and I think these must have been originally printed, but now they are a digital handbook. So it basically opens up like an app on your phone. It's like you bookmark the link, and then you can turn that into essentially a shortcut on your phone. So there's a packing list in there.
Yeah, and they do that even for the river cruises as well. They'll send you a suggested packing list. It's just guideline, obviously, but it might have like, suggestion of hiking boots or suggestion of water shoes or things like that. So it gives you an idea. What was the main activity for day 2?
That was the boat, the nature reserve.
Okay, yeah. I was like, yeah. Yeah, that's true. You're looking at the pins because we have the pins in order
That's helpful.
on the kitchen table in front of us. So we went to the Caño Negro Wildlife Refuge. There we go. So the pin says "Call of the Wild." It's got Minnie Mouse with a little monkey peeking over the top of her bow there. So Caño Negro is, I back up and say the only night we were in San Jose was the first night. So the next 3 nights after that, we were in the Hotel Kioro in Arenal, which is where the volcano is. We were mostly, I would say, unlucky with our volcano views.
Very foggy.
It was very foggy. And sadly, I was looking at Adventure Guide Kaylin's stories from Instagram, like for the following week, and it was like so clear. It was like, of course. But that hotel is really nice. You've got like a nice kind of Juliet balcony going on, and you've got a hot tub in your room, which is cool. So in theory, you can sit in your in-room hot tub and look at the volcano if it is visible. So the Caño Negro Wildlife Refuge is about a 2-hour drive from that hotel. So it's another fairly early morning. Then you've got your bus time, and Adventure Guide Brian, or whoever your local Costa Rican guide is, does some narration about the wildlife and about just Costa Rican culture, about the geography. You're going through the cloud forest and different things. And then eventually you get there and you get on the boat, and they call it the real life jungle cruise. So you're cruising along and just looking at animals.
And this is where our Costa Rican Brian really shined, because his knowledge of all the animals, and he got so excited.
So excited.
Like we would see the birds and he'd be like,
Oh.
"Ooh, that's this, and this." And we saw a bird he had never seen before doing this, and he's been doing it for like 10 or 15 years, quite a while.
Yeah, he's been guiding a long time.
And he had never seen this bird on this cruise before.
Oh my God. But he knew
got
what it
so
was
excited.
from a book or
Yes.
something, right? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, like he has studied this bird, but it's called the Great Potoo, Potoo. And we had tried to do a slideshow, and we had pictures of it, but maybe we'll share the link for y'all to post somewhere or something.
Oh,
if
that's a
people wanna
great
look
idea.
I
Yeah.
mean, we've already made it,
Yeah.
so we might as well. But the bird it's a nocturnal bird, and it looks like a tree trunk. Like it looks like it's part of a tree. Because it's so camouflaged. So the fact that like we were able to spot it, I mean, not us personally, but that
Our boat guy.
boat captain, I'm like, how are you like seeing all these animals and also driving this boat at the same time?
Yeah, he was driving the boat, and you would just see him like he's looking for it, and then he's like, "Oh, there's a monkey up there," and he's pointing off to the side.
I
Oh,
think-
Oh my
there's
God.
the bird up in the tree at the very top of this tree.
I think that the most remarkable was the bats. There were these like tiny bats
they
that
were like this big.
they're like a couple inches, and they're on the underside of this like log. Sticking out of the water of the river, because you're going over the Rio Frio, which means cold river in Spanish. And so little brief aside, a lot of times with ABD you get to do things that the general public does not get to do. Like if you're in Rome, you get to go into the Vatican museums before they're open to the public. So we were one of the days we were in the pool chatting with some of our new friends, and one of them asked, well, so what did like the normies not get to do that we get to do by doing this through ABD? And I thought about it, and I said, I think the answer is Brian, because can you go to Costa Rica on your own and whitewater raft or zip line or whatever? Sure. Can you book a wildlife cruise? Sure. But I think going with a wildlife expert like Brian, and he has just like the best personality. So does Caitlin. They were both amazing. But I think like in terms of what is really unique and different is just the level of knowledge that he brings to the table and his passion for it, because like I didn't know anything about these birds, but he got me really excited with his own like force of his enthusiasm.
Yeah, I remember we had Jennifer on to talk about this Costa Rica trip a while back. I think we had her on the show to talk about it, but regardless, she was messaging me when she did this trip because she did the trip with ABD, and then I think she went back to Costa Rica with her kids and just herself, and she was like,
and she tried to replicate. She tried to replicate the ABD, like a lot of like she used a travel agent, I believe, at My Path Unwinding Travel, to try and like create an itinerary like similar, but to hit things that they hadn't done, but it's the same sort of level of experience. Yeah, and to Brian's point,
well, she was she's like, I miss our guides. I miss the ABD.
Yeah,
it's like they were what made that trip. So, you brought back some wildlife from the Amazon, I see.
Lord Naranja.
This is our orange cat for people that can see him, and if you are listening to the audio only, sorry, you're missing out on a very cute cat.
and a great cat on Drew's lap right now. I love it. I love it.
He just loves to be held. So.
But I'll say the other cool thing with the wildlife is that we haven't talked about this yet, but you get a ton of photos when you go on an ABD, and I didn't know that was going to be a thing. Because we won this, I didn't really do any research. It was like, cool, we're going, great. And so we got about 1,000 photos that we got to download from this 6-day trip. And like for rafting, for example, the raft company has a photographer that like meets you at different points along the shoreline to take your photos of your group. So we have a ton. And if and when people get to see the photos, Drew is like a supermodel, like looking at the camera every single time.
I love that. He can find the camera.
He was looking for the camera at every turn of that river. But,
Drew, give us your best Zoolander there.
Yeah, your best.
You gotta do him. Yeah. But he's like with the paddle.
Yeah, it's an action shot. They're all
an action shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Drew's like,
he's a blue steel.
Yeah, I was watching out for him.
Yeah. So, but on the wildlife refuge tour, they bring like a legit camera with the telephoto lens. So you're getting like really good photos of the wildlife that you can't just get with your phone. I mean, the iPhones and I'm sure the Google Pixel, etc., have come a long way in terms of their abilities, but you're talking howler monkeys, spider monkeys, white-faced capuchins, like way up there in the trees. And I mean, I got like some okay photos with my phone, which is a pretty brand new iPhone. But the real camera photos were definitely a lot better. So that's a nice benefit too. I mean, just in general with the photos, like you're not having to like worry about like, I have to document this. You can just be more in the moment, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's jump to the next day, so we can get through it all. What was the big activity on day 3? You're still in that same hotel, I think, on that day.
Yes.
So zip lining high in the sky.
Skyline, yes, zip lining. So yeah, we at the start, when you start, you go up in a gondola, kind of like they have in Switzerland, or a ski, kind of like a ski lift.
It's not like a chairlift though. You're in an enclosed
little thing, but it is open air, and it takes you way up into the top of the jungle, and then there are 7 or 8 zip lines down, and you just go back and forth, and at the peak, you're 650 feet above the jungle. So it's pretty incredible. And there were photographers. There were photographers from the zipline company along the route taking pictures. And so we got those pictures too, included with the ABD.
Yep. And
that's not something we just got for winning. That's something everybody on the ABD got.
Right. Yep, and your guides, our guide Caitlin did the zip lining with us, and she also took some photos with her company phone. So we got a good mix of like company zipline company pictures and not. But I would say the zip lining is pretty accessible for most.
As long as
people.
you're not afraid of heights.
Right.
And if you are afraid of heights, do it anyway. It's incredible.
Do it anyway. I mean, Brian has convinced me a couple of times to do zip lining at different places.
And
once,
both
times I loved it. I'm still terrified.
We did the steepest zip line on St. Thomas or something
St.
like
Martin.
that.
St. Martin.
And Sam was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hate him. And she got to the bottom, and we were like walking back to like look at our photo or whatever. And she was like, "So, I mean, I could do that again if you wanted to go again." And
we did go again.
Yeah. So,
and then the other one we did was in St. Kitts, I believe. It was one of those like rainforest ones, treetop ones, which is more similar to what you did, where you go from zip line to zip line, and that was just like 4 or 5 smaller, zip lines. But yeah, terrifying but awesome. I totally highly recommend, even if you like me are terrified, do it. But yeah, Tracy was asking, are there photographers on ABD river cruises? So it depends in general. Like sometimes there might be locations where you do things where there's a photographer, but generally speaking, on most ABDs, the photographers are actually your guides. Your ABD guides will be taking pictures with their phones, usually iPhones or whatnot, and they will put them all onto a website for you to download at the end of and it's all included, as Hayley and Drew mentioned. It's not because they won this trip. It is part of the ABD package, is basically a shared photo album. And so what's great about that is you may not always think to take a picture of yourself and your spouse or yourself and your family, and they will take a picture of you. And so not every photo has to be a selfie. You can actually get some decent photos. And they are actually quite good at taking photos because they take photos all the time. So even though they're not professional photographers, the guides, even though they're not professional photographers, they're actually quite good. All right. So go ahead, Drew.
I was just going to say one little thing like that was great was after all of these activities, you're been hot, you're out in the thing. They always, at the bus, when we were getting back on the bus, our bus driver always had a table set up with bottles of water and like Costa Rican
snackies,
snacks and candies and things like that.
What do we got there? We got some sort of Costa Rican flavored
some
chip.
kind of chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Yippee. So this is like a Costa Rican Kit Kat.
Oh, nice.
And then we have some chips. So yaquitas are kind of
they're
like
yuca.
They're yuca potato chips, and maduritos are
plantain
nice. Chips. Yeah.
Yum. I love both.
Yeah, there were other options, but obviously
These were our
we've
favorites.
grabbed extra to bring home with us. And I forgot to say, after the whitewater rafting, we had like a dinner at the hotel, and we had a dance demonstration with like 5 Latin dances, and we did a guaro sour cocktail making class. And this is included as a standard on all the itineraries. The kids can do a tropical fruit juice tasting. When it's a family adventure, and adults only, everybody's just making the cocktail. But so guaro is like a rum but made with sugarcane, and it's a Costa Rican thing. And so the guaro sour is that plus lime juice and simple syrup. So it's pretty simple cocktail
Usually
to make.
with a sugar rim.
Usually with a sugar rim, like you kind of roll the rim of your glass in pineapple,
Yeah.
like on a slice of pineapple, and then do that on top of the sugar. But we enjoyed the guaro sour. We ordered that. Like anytime we were having a drink in Costa Rica, we were typically ordering those because like we can't get them at home. So we were like, let's just enjoy that. That was not included. And any alcohol is not part of your ABD. Well, there's a couple like the welcome dinner and the farewell
Besides
dinner.
the tastings.
They have wine that
Yeah.
like you get 2 glasses of wine, I think, included. But by and large, and the catamaran has an open bar.
How many
When you get to Guanacaste.
how many meals were included on the trip? Because like a river cruise, everything's included, but I don't know in Costa Rica.
Everything except for one lunch. One lunch we had to get on our own, which was when we got dropped off in one of the towns and was able to like walk around and things like that. That was the only time that we had to pay for our own meal.
Nice.
It's really nice. It's really nice when you do an ABD because you really don't have other things to pay for outside of like a tip, right? Or souvenirs, right? So it's really nice to have same with a river cruise. If there might be like I think one lunch. Well, you could always come back to the ship, but if you wanted to go out on your own into the town and you had that
Yeah.
free time, then if you're off the ship, obviously then the lunch was on your own. All right, well let's jump to the next day. So you did day after zip
Oh, one more
lining.
thing. Sorry, we had
Oh,
one more
yeah,
activity
no.
on the zip lining day,
Yeah.
which was hot springs. So
Yes.
we went
Ooh.
to hot springs, and we got to have like an hour, I think, hour and a half to like sit in the hot springs. And there's like you go from one to the next to the next. And it's supposed to get like progressively colder, but it's like a 1 degree difference according to Drew's Apple Watch. And they will have people who can bring you drinks in the hot springs if you want that. And then you also had dinner there. And something we haven't mentioned yet is that the sun rises at like 5:30 and sets about 6 o'clock year round. So, because I guess you're closer to the equator. So,
Yeah, a funny story that our guide Brian told us is like when he used to watch soccer or football on television in other countries, and it would be like 8:30 at night, and it's still light outside. He's like, "Well, clearly that's not true. That's not right."
he's like,
because
that's fake.
The sun always sets at 6:30.
Everyone knows that.
That's so
So,
funny. You don't think about
Yeah,
that though,
it's
because
like very
where
dark when we're at the hot springs.
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Well, so we're heading into day 5 now, right?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. What's on tap for day 5? Hold on. Let me get the camera switcher ready so we can see the pin.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Here you
Go ahead. Okay. This one, it says Vamos Guanacaste.
Vamos a Guanacaste, which means like we're going to Guanacaste. So you've got another monkey and like an adventurer Donald going on here.
So this was mainly driving across the country. Like we drove, I think it was like a 4.5 hour drive across the country. That was the big thing.
But
Well,
before
that was a big thing. But we also did the chocolate tour. And chocolate tour short. Look, we got a whole bunch of Costa Rican chocolate. We are not into coffee, and so that was not our thing, but we loaded up on the Costa Rican chocolate.
Yeah.
Wait,
you're
how
looking
many
at, like,
days? How many days have you been back now?
2 weeks, a week and a half.
Yeah, we got back on May 30th, and today's June 9th. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But we have
Ten
we've already
days,
eaten
11
up
days.
like one or two of these, but we bought like $50 in chocolate.
And these are the two. So this is the two little monkeys is the one that the guy at the chocolate place recommended, and the chocolate fusion. This one is the one that our guides recommended. So if you're in Costa Rica and you're looking for chocolate,
Yeah, your
watch
guides
out for
your
those
guides
two.
will give you chocolate and coffee recommendations of all sorts. Brian was pretty much mainlining coffee the entire day.
I mean, he had it as soon as we woke up, he would still be drinking it at 9:30 at night. He had a cup always.
And it's like this little tiny, like,
Yeah.
ceramic cup that he just carries. It's not like a travel mug.
Keeps it get refilled. He took it with him everywhere.
I'm like, is that your personal cup that you it doesn't have a lid. I have questions, but,
yeah, but anyway, this chocolate tour. This was something they told us about on the first day, because they were like, a chocolate tour is a chocolate tour, but you need to be prepared because of the man that does the chocolate tour. His actual name is
Kaylor. Keilor.
But his local name is Chapo Guapo, which means...
It's like kind of like a handsome bandit or handsome scoundrel, that kind of vibe. You've heard of like El Chapo, the drug lord. He is Chapo Guapo, and he looks like Costa Rican Santa.
Yeah.
Our slideshow has a couple of photos of the man, the myth, the legend.
This is the great loss of not having the slideshow, is you all not getting to see Chapo Guapo.
It's like if the most interesting man in the world and Santa got together with like a stand-up comedian. Like the Brian, Costa Rican Brian, Adventure Guide Brian, described him as feral.
And that was accurate.
That is accurate. And Adventure Guide Caitlin said that you might think that's like Brian struggling to find the right English word, but no, that is the right English word. And Chapo Guapo spent the entire time joking about how he was going to marry Caitlin and she was going to be Costa Rican. And
she's going to be Mrs. Chapo Guapo.
Exactly.
That's one of the recurring bits. And basically, like, he will give you as much as you give him in return. So we were like egging him on. I
think because we were adults only, he was letting it go even a little bit more. So
I mean, he never crossed the line,
no.
But he was definitely like, it was very engaging, and it wasn't. I mean, yes, we learned a lot about chocolate.
Had a lot of good chocolate.
And you get to like sample chocolate by the like kind of like the little teaspoonful at the end, and you can like he pours like different toppings on it. He was like lighting some of them on fire, putting like marshmallows on it, lighting it on fire, like dousing it with rum. Now you're like, what is happening? It was, and then you went and took like a 2-hour curvy bus ride after all the chocolate.
Yes.
So
you're full of chocolate and then long bus.
Yes. But that was like surprisingly delightful experience.
Yeah, we had done a chocolate tasting in Mexico on a Caribbean cruise and things before. This was
you guys did the one in Cozumel, I think, right?
We did. Mm-hmm. This is nothing like that. This is on a whole nother plane. It was honestly a highlight that you wouldn't expect. You know, you expect it to be zip lining or rafting and things like that, and those were amazing. But this was a highlight and a very, again, you're talking about like things that you might not otherwise get. You wouldn't know to ask or get this particular guide and get this particular experience if you weren't on an ABD.
Yeah. There were a couple of times throughout the week where we stopped at like a local business that wasn't like on the itinerary. Like we went to a trapiche, which is like a place where they grow and process sugarcane. So we saw like a demonstration of how they get juice out of sugarcane. Yeah, one of the uses of which is guaro. But and they showed us like how to make tortillas, and we like more snacks. You're never hungry. They feed you constantly. But it was cool because it was like these 3 sisters who own the trapiche. And we just like stopped there for like 30 minutes. It was like bathroom stop and little snacks and a little bit of education. But Costa Rica Adventure Guide Brian was saying, oh yeah, like these sisters are awesome. One time I had a hernia and they like took me to the hospital. And so like these are people that he actually, you know, knows and has a relationship with. And he and Chapo Guapo like hang out sometimes. So it's fun because you get to know the locals more. And I saw Tracy had a comment that she doesn't mind paying for a breakfast or lunch out in the area. So when you do the lunch in the town of La Fortuna, that's cool. There's not really a lot of other opportunities to do that because the resorts that you're staying at are pretty isolated. Like you're kind of like way up in the jungle, and there's nowhere for you to like walk to. So
right. And there's no little town really. Yeah.
No, and you're probably not gonna like Uber or anything because I don't know that like these smaller towns, like these more rural areas, have that. So just that's a difference from like being on a river cruise where you like get off and you're in a town with lots of options there.
Yeah.
Anything else on this day? Let's see.
I think that's it.
The chocolate tour was the main thing.
With the kitty.
Well, nobody cares about the kitty. Oh, we got like smoothies on the road. That was fun. They're just like, they ask you like, hypothetically, if you could choose from these flavors, what would you choose? And you're basically like pre-ordering your smoothie for this like
awesome.
roadside like stop by the side of a river that's like a souvenir store / smoothie bar / whatever. So just like little fun stuff like that. But this was the day where we were transferred to Guanacaste, which is on the Pacific coast, and we were at El Mangrove Hotel for the last 2 nights, which is adventure guide Caitlin described it as a bougie beach resort, which is accurate.
And this is
Nice.
on the Pacific coast, and it has the black sand beaches because it's the volcanic beaches. So
Oh, beautiful.
So don't go there expecting them to be pitch black, but they are definitely
Dark.
Yeah, dark color. So what was that your first day there like? I guess this is your last like full day of your ABD.
Yeah.
I presume.
No, we got one more full day after
Oh,
this.
one more full day. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
so
your
this
last
we
few
got to
days.
the beach hotel, and you basically just had the afternoon free to go to the pool or go to the beach or whatever, and then dinner was included but on your own.
Yeah.
So you just like made a reservation with
went
the
to
hotel
one
restaurant.
of the hotel restaurants and went and ate
But
on your
it was
We
like-
had dinner with some of our friends
Yeah.
we had made.
You can go with people if you want, or you can, if you just want it to be your party, you can do that as well.
But our very last day, our last full day says hasta luego.
Which means see you later.
See you later.
Which is the phrase you never want to hear.
Yeah, but that was our catamaran day. So we got to go out on the catamaran.
Yeah, it's like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour-ish experience. So you and there's an open bar included. We started at 8 a.m., but it's noon somewhere, or 5 o'clock somewhere or whatever. And so you got the net so you can lay on, and we got to snorkel, and the water was a little murky because of the weather. It had been raining some, but we could still see some things. We saw eels and pufferfish, which was cool. Sometimes people will see turtles or dolphins. The week after us, I think, had better luck with
Starfish.
that. We did see a starfish. But you get like a pool noodle to do your snorkeling with. Of course, all the snorkel equipment is included. There were snacks on the boat. It was a really fun time. They had music playing, and we were just vibing, having a good time. It was like a nice, you kind of do like all the like really hardcore activities are front loaded at the front of this trip. And so you kind of just get progressively more chill and relaxed as the trip proceeds. And then
that
when you
sounds
get
like a
back
nice
to the
way to
catamaran-
end. I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like
it was great.
to be out on the water. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you get back to the resort, you have the rest of the afternoon free. A lot of people go straight from the catamaran into the pool, and that's basically what we did. We had lunch at the like pool bar. They had like a set menu to choose from for that,
And then if you're me, you get food poisoning and spend the rest of the day sick in the room.
that is true. He was in the pool for a while, and then he abandoned me, and I thought he was just like done peopling because he's pretty introverted, and I'll talk to anyone for any length of time. But yeah, I got back to the room to like shower, and he was like, "I'm dying," and I was like, "Oh no!" So he actually missed our farewell dinner, which was
was
really
very
sad.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes me really sad.
It
Well,
was sad.
speaking of food, I mean, we gotta kind of, obviously that was your farewell dinner. Your farewell dinner usually has a slideshow. I'm sure that you had a slideshow that evening. It's a secret. They don't tell you it's going to happen, but anyone who's been on an Adventures by Disney or has talked to someone who's been on an Adventures by Disney adventure knows that they do a slideshow. But I want to kind of back up and talk about food overall.
Yeah, I'm really curious. Like for the food stuff, did you get an authentic taste of Costa Rica?
I think so. Like they had a list in the handbook ahead of time that was like, here are some traditional Costa Rican dishes that you may encounter, and we kind of made it our mission to try as many of them as we could.
And I think we got everything but one. So
Everything but shaved ice,
Yeah.
which is like, okay, that doesn't matter to me. But every meal basically has rice and beans in some form or fashion, including breakfast. It's got different names depending on what time of day. Drew's got another visual aid here, which is lisano sauce, which is like the Costa Rican national condiment of choice. And like don't even know how to describe it. It's not spicy, but it's really tasty. You put it on your rice and beans, you put it on your meat, whatever. I would say like the way that most of these buffets are set up, it's like there is salad, there is vegetables, there is meats, and there might be a pasta, and there's usually rice and beans. And so it's pretty easy like for everybody to find something that they want. So whether you're vegetarian or vegan or whatever, there was actually 2 of us with the same tree nut allergy, which is odd and uncommon probably, but they handled that really well. Never felt like that was going to be an issue, with the possible exception of desserts. But I do feel like a lot of the buffets, like if you wanted to try something more authentic, I think like just a steak with chimichurri sauce is pretty authentically Costa Rican. Mm-hmm. And something to note about Costa Rican food is that it's not especially spicy. Mm-hmm. Like they're not trying to, kill you with spice levels there, the way that maybe some other Latin American, Central American countries might. So if you are more of a less spicy person, there'll be plenty for you to eat. And I think they try to appeal to a wide variety of palates, but you definitely can still try traditional stuff.
Yeah. Well, and were there other people with maybe more difficult food allergies to accommodate? I know you have, tree nut allergy, and you said somebody else had a tree nut allergy, but like, were there other ones? I mean, like maybe like a shellfish allergy or anything like that?
Not that we heard
Somebody
about.
was a vegetarian, but I think that was about the only other.
Yeah, I think Robin, who is one of our new friends, the other tree nut allergy, she's more susceptible to cross-contamination than I am. So there were several definitely desserts that she passed on. And I also should have mentioned there's usually fresh fruit at every meal. And Costa Rica is actually the #1 exporter of pineapple. So there is really delicious fresh pineapple at every meal.
Except if you eat their fruit, then you will come back here and not want to eat this fruit.
That is true. That is a hazard that you run, because you will come back and be like, this pineapple is not the same.
So here's my question. All right,
yes.
as we wrap things up here, you got to do an ABD for free, which is like amazing. Your first Adventures by Disney. First Adventures by Disney trip here for free.
Yeah.
Knowing what they cost, would you pay to do one now that you've experienced the free version?
I think so. We talked to some of the friends we made on the trip, and we all want to do the Egypt one together. So I think that, not to belabor the point, that kind of gets at it right there. Is I don't think that we're pretty I don't know if accomplished is the right word. Experienced travelers. We've planned lots of trips ourselves, and for places that we would feel comfortable or that we've planned before. So we've been all over Europe and things like that. I don't think that we would necessarily feel like we needed a guide or that we needed to take an ABD there. But somewhere that I think would be harder to plan, like I said, Egypt, maybe going to Machu Picchu, maybe somewhere over in Asia, either Japan or China or something like that, where the language barrier is a little bit higher, I think that we would definitely consider doing it again.
Yeah, I think one of the strengths of ABD too is that they take care of all the logistics for you. So like just getting from point A to point B around the country, like easy to do in Europe, there's trains to everywhere. But when you're talking about like, can you rent a car and drive across Costa Rica? Absolutely, you can. Can you arrange all your own internal flights and Nile River cruise and all that in Egypt? Like, yeah. But I think like for Egypt, for example, which is somewhere that I'm especially interested in going because I'm an archaeology nerd, I would rather go with a tour company of some sort, just because totally different culture, language barrier, etc., and just the like sheer size of the country that you're trying to navigate around. And frankly, I like getting a pin every day. And if I can get a pin with Mickey Mouse and a pyramid on it, I'd be pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
We did get one final pin because it was the 20th anniversary of Adventures by Disney. So we got one extra final pin.
There you go.
That's cool.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I think ABD's at its best when you're talking about a country where it's difficult to plan the trip, where you're moving around the country a lot. Like Egypt's really cool because I know Jennifer came on and she they took planes, trains, automobiles, boats. Like everything to get around that country. So I
Yeah,
mean, I
when
think
we heard that episode, that's when we were like, okay, we're gonna do it with ABD.
It was like it's like it sounds exhausting, but at the same time, like you can't. I don't know how you could plan to accomplish more in your time in that country than what ABD does. And
although Jennifer had like possibly the worst experience you could have.
That's true.
But that was sickness and things.
Yeah, she doesn't fault ABD for that, right?
No,
so,
I
like,
know.
I think ABD is at its best if you're a family wanting to travel, wanting to know that the vendors are going to be amazing. You know, that you're going to get some really high quality guides, and that you might get some things that the general public doesn't. I've always thought the river cruising thing is I'm saying this knowing that we're going on one as our next podcast. It's a little harder. It's a little harder to sell for me, although it's perfect with kids. Like, I think that's the only way if you want to do river cruising and you've got young kids and you want the 3 people in a stateroom, that kind of thing, like ABD kills it for that. I think if we were, older, Nathan was out of the house, we might just go do an AMA Waterways cruise on our own, to be perfectly honest. The ABD upsell there doesn't seem as valuable to us. But I think if I was going to go to Egypt, I'd probably pick ABD, even if it was just Sam and I, or the safari in South Africa that I know, I know
Ashley and Daniel are doing.
Ashley and Daniel are headed down there. That would be an amazing ABD to do. I'm glad to know that you're ABD converts, because Disney Cruise is the gateway drug to ABD.
Other companies for these things yet, so that's a caveat. Is like I may look and see how what an Egyptian adventure costs with another company and go. I mean, if it's twice the price, then I might have to go. If it's $2,000 difference or something, it's definitely a conversation.
Here's what I would say though on that point. Even if it's twice the price, like when we were on our ABD wandering around Europe, like I did pay attention to like how many guides did we have for our group of whatever versus those other ones where it was just like throng of people all trying to keep up with the umbrella or whatever it was. And, they had the earpieces on. So we had those ear things on, but usually that was only like for walking long distances between places. We started to spread out a little bit, but like I probably could have kept up with the guide the whole way and not even had to use those things. So anyway, I think there's more value there than people probably ascribe to ABD.
I mean, it's a really high quality product for sure. And I mean, we were staying in these super nice hotels, and like we're not super budget travelers, but we always are like in an interior stateroom on Disney, because just the entry point to get on the ship is a lot higher than it is for other cruise lines. But I prefer the Disney experience, the entertainment, and so forth. But like, I would never stay in these hotels if I was booking them myself, because I would be going like, I'm not spending $800 a night. But if it's just like part of your package and you don't have to think about the sticker shock all throughout the planning process, then it's kind of like, I deserve this. I work hard. I can be bougie a little bit.
You say that, but we did stay at St. Herman's.
I know, but it wasn't $800 a night when we stayed there.
Yeah, St. Herman's.
It's getting close again.
For those who don't know what they're talking about, St. Herman's is a hotel in London that we actually recommended to Hayley and Drew, and we stayed there.
It is bougie, not on a budget.
It's bougie, definitely. It is a really lovely hotel. It's a Marriott property, but I would highly recommend it for folks staying in London. It's very also well located near tube stops and near the palace, and you can walk to Buckingham Palace. You can walk to a lot of the sites.
Not one, but 2 Starbucks. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, close by, 2 different directions. Yeah,
I think Brian and I would not get along on his spelling of his name, but we would get along on the coffee. So there you go.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks you guys for joining us. We obviously so appreciate you guys coming on to talk to us about this ABD. It is obviously a very unique itinerary. It's not one we've done ourselves. For those who know, we have only done one adventure on Adventures by Disney ourselves, but we of course love to cover it because we do think that DCL is often the gateway drug to Adventures by Disney. It's a very similar luxury product by Disney. For those watching live or watching this recorded, don't forget this Friday we will be back at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern to talk with Gina to finally talk about why Alaska is a bucket list itinerary and why Alaska is basically the best on DCL. Then we will also be back next Monday, again at our regular time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, to talk with our good friend Tracy about the treasure. She just went on her second sailing. She was on the maiden voyage with us, and this was her first time back on the treasure since the maiden voyage. So we got to hear, what's different. She also sailed with one of her kids, who is a young adult and recent college graduate who hadn't been on Disney Cruise Line in many years. And so Tracy's going to give us all the deets on what her daughter liked, didn't like, and what she thought had changed over the years. So we will be back at our normal time. So please join us.
And can I just say, we made it. We made it through a whole
We
live
made it
stream
through a whole
on the
live
new
stream
platform.
on the new platform.
That in and of itself deserves the applause. So
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. All right. Thanks everybody out there.
We're hoping to get this platform more up and running so that we can do more fun things, more than obviously just sound effects, but PowerPoints and all that good stuff as well.
Call in. We might have the ability to let people call into the show if they want to ask a question live. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure we want to use that, but we'll see.
But then I
You never
can't
know
use
if we
my
get inappropriate.
I can't get my first long-time listener, first-time caller.
First-time
Yeah,
caller. I
there we
know.
go.
I
There
know.
we go.
Brian loves that line.
All right.
Anyway, thank you all for watching. We will see you on Friday and then see you next Monday. And again, big thanks to Hayley and Drew for coming on tonight's show. And we'll have them back because they'll be sailing on Disney. They'll be doing different trips. They'll be back.
See you, everybody.
Well, thanks y'all for having us. Bye.